So I really want to turn it over to Miss Deborah Streeter, Professor Streeter, who's amazing. And then she could talk a little bit about herself and introduce herself, and then we'll go to the questions. Good morning, Professor.
Excellent. Thank you, Letty. Well, I am a faculty member at Cornell University, and I've been there for more than 35 years. Recently, I stepped into what I call preferment, and that's I just do what I prefer. So I stepped down from my full-time job. But one of the things that I prefer to do is continue with a project I started sort of at the end of my entrepreneurial teaching time. And that is the Bank of America Institute for Women's Entrepreneurship at Cornell. This is a program we started 3 years ago now. And our modest goal when we started was maybe we would have 5,000 women enroll in this program over a few years. Well, by the spring, we will have enrolled 50,000.
Wow.
So it's grown quite a bit. And I don't know, Letty, if you want me to give a quick overview of what the Institute is.
Yes.
The idea, working with Bank of America on this, our idea was to improve the chances for success for women who are starting businesses. So it's aimed completely outside the university. So it's outward facing from Cornell. And it's aimed at women who are starting businesses from 0 to 5 years. Most of ours are just beginning, most are in their first year. And we wanted it to be, Bank of America is underwriting all the costs, so it's a free program. It takes 12 weeks. Each course takes 2 weeks. And Letty can tell you how much time it takes. I don't know. I just taught it.
But worth the investment.
But to our topic today, each of the cohorts, we enroll women in cohorts, and they are accompanied by a facilitator. So somebody is moderating the discussion and reviewing everybody's work. So it's not like a typical online course where you don't have any structure and you don't have any feedback. There are 6 courses. We start with creating your business. Then we move on to legal issues, financial issues, leadership issues, digital marketing and branding. And then we wrap up with a course on communication, which includes sort of pitching and negotiating, things that are really important in the entrepreneurial world. We recently, within the past year, translated the entire program into Spanish. And so we are really happy to start building our Latinx enrollment over time. One quick caveat, we've had many viral moments in this program. When we opened the program, because we weren't aware of how much demand there would be, it kind of shut down Cornell servers. And recently, within the last 2 days, it happened again when somebody put something on TikTok. And so nobody should try to enroll, put it on your list for Monday. If you are interested in the program, you won't have any luck until sometime next week, because they're trying to deal with the regular
demand for Cornell's programs.
Yeah.
If I could jump in and say, it was so amazing to get in, and I want to share with everybody that when it came out last year, and I heard about it through the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and I went and applied, and I didn't get in, and I was like messaging people like, how do I get in? And so then this year when it came out again, I got the email. I applied, and I was so excited because I got in, and then you and I talked, and you said there was like a wait list of 25,000 people, and I'm like, how did I get in?
Yeah.
Which is great. But something you said that I thought was really important for this particular session for people to know, because I didn't know, is what you just mentioned about the Latina, but in Spanish course, which has easier access for applicants, whether they're members of LULAC or just from the Latina community in the United States and Puerto Rico. So I think this is really great, and I'll get that information from you so I can put that out in our networking and our information, so that Latina entrepreneurs can apply?
Yeah, that would be great. We purposefully want to increase the participation of Latinas in the program, and starting next week, not right now, but I think we're trying several approaches. Translating into Spanish is only one effort, but that program has more availability because it's new. We just rolled it out, I think, 4 months ago.
Well, that's great to know. And thank you for sharing that. I got a question for you, and I really want you to think about this because I just think that cohorts of learning are outstanding and amazing, only because growing up, we had challenges. We were low income, and I didn't go to college. And so when I became an entrepreneur, it was actually the School of Hard Knocks, and I would say I was the valedictorian. But I look back and when I heard about a particular cohort of learning, and I didn't even know what it was, and signed up, it was really game changing for me, because at that time, even though my revenue was great, and I didn't even realize that it was great in national comparison to Latinas, but it gave me new innovative tools. And I would love for you to share, what is the essential values of cohorts of learning that you really whoever's listening must know? This is the amazing takeaways that they can have for their invested time.
Yeah, and this is related to a question I often get, which is, why would you focus a program just for women? And the truth is, cohort learning is driven, and cohorts can be put together in a lot of different ways, right? For us, gender is the piece that puts it, although men do go through our program and are welcome to, but I think the key element is, your lived experience as a female is going to be different. And it's not to say that it's homogeneous. Like, our experiences are made up of so many layers of identity, and there is a lot of intersectionality between being Latina and female, or Black and female, and any other layer that you could think of. But if you're in a cohort that has some resonance with your lived experience, it's a bit of a safer space. So one thing women really like about being in the program is some of the content is designed to draw out these elements. Like, think about entrepreneurship. So women, and this again, I'm going to make some generalizations. Some of it might sound a little bit sexist, actually, but women are raised to be nice. Both women and men like women to be nice. And yet sometimes being nice is in conflict with being a tough negotiator or a very strong leader. And so women have to navigate these double binds. And I think being in a cohort means you can talk openly about that. You're not going to worry about offending somebody or asking a silly question or putting out for being vulnerable, I would say. And we hear from the women who have been through the program that one of the most valuable things is the network of women that they go through it with, that long-lasting bonds and so forth. So I think that makes a big difference. As a teacher, if you know a cohort has a particular composition, you can help connect with that. And I think from a learner standpoint, it gives you, again, a safe space to really learn with open questions.
Well, one thing that I'd love to add to what you said is, what I love about the uniqueness in this particular cohort of learning is I cannot believe, well, I love the portal chats. They're the best I've seen anywhere. Mm-hmm. And I've been a part of, like I said, other cohorts. But what I love is how transparent these women are. Like, they share stuff and they just go in there and share. And I love it because I'm like, let me give you some of my trauma stories of becoming an entrepreneur. And then how, I overcame those things, like you hear about these crazy stories when you hear about people that have made it into the mega billions or whatever, right? But if
Mhm.
only people would realize this is reality. When
Yeah.
you become an entrepreneur, a small business owner, I tell people you got to be a little crazy. And I'm like, I'm a lot crazy because, it's like you got to keep finding the answers and solutions and the perseverance to keep going. And then what I love about what you guys have done here is the ease of being able to come and go at your leisure, but
Yeah.
knowing that per course, per session, that there's a timeline of when that is happening, but
Mhm.
also a timeline of homework. And
Yeah.
mind you,
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, for someone to tell me I got homework and a date, I'm like, oh my God. So it's been a habit that I've had to teach myself to obey and follow.
Right.
But I love what you guys are doing because it can help us create habits. And it's really worth it when we could just really be dedicated to the investment that Bank of America did with this and your time and the team of
Mhm.
wanting to share with us and the speakers.
Right. It's interesting, the question of structure and flexibility that online learning allows you to have. It's you can find out about entrepreneurship in a million places. I'm sure your own organization has resource pages and books you can buy. And it's sort of, whenever people think, well, can you really teach entrepreneurship? I always say, you need some structure and you need flexibility, because entrepreneurial life, and for that matter, lives of females, especially during COVID and the racial uprisings and everything, were, you can't be at Tuesday at 9 o'clock every day. You can't be in a classroom. So the flexibility is important, but just like your business, you need goals and you need deadlines. And so the way we designed this program, I worked with some really brilliant instructional designers, is to put out some concepts, but then make it real for your particular business. So we might talk about customer discovery. You have to go out and talk to the prospective customers in your context for your business, and then try to apply the ideas that are presented to your company. And I think that's another reason for cohort learning, is just to have that combination of structure plus flexibility.
Uh, Totally. I mean, again, this one by far, with seeing that opportunity in each cohort that I've been a part of, was a different setup, was just so good. But what other ones were missing, I clearly know, was the structure of accountability, which really helps me because as a small business owner, we know that our biggest problem is time. We're not good time management people. I have another question, and what percent of the Latinas do you know, or more or less, that kind of came into the program? You and I had a discussion on this. I'd love for people to see the opportunity of getting engaged and share what you can, whatever you decide. But I just feel like there's so much out there that sometimes we don't know, Professor Streeter, which one is the best one. you
Mhm.
know um if I'm Latina, should I be in this general one or should I be specifically in the Latina one,
Right.
like things like that.
Yeah. And it's a really important question, because you don't want to become so, I'll call it siloed, right? You don't want to become so narrow in things that you only speak to a certain level of people. But having said that, I feel like you need to kind of be in both, right? So you need to have a group where you can, let's say you're somebody who would prefer to interact in Spanish. Then you might want to be in a group where that's a very free-flowing thing, where your instructor speaks Spanish and so forth. But you also have to step out of that and also be in environments where it's either mixed or English and Spanish, right? Because that's the world that you live in. That's the world your business lives in. And so I think you need a little of both. I mean, one of the things I also teach, I have a certificate program, Women in Leadership. And one of the things we talk about is networks. You need both people close to you that understand your lived experience and can encourage you and propel you. And you need to have networks outside of your world, and perhaps people who can draw you with them, bring you up with them as you go. So I think you know, it's a good distinction to know, to think about, is this a time where I need a stronger network of support of other people where I'm going to explore things and be vulnerable? Then perhaps you want to choose a more closed group. Or am I in a time of growth where I want to push myself to connect with people that I don't normally have a chance to talk to? And then you might want to be in a cohort that is perhaps a much more heterogeneous. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense. And two things. So what percentage do you think, more or less? You know, I think it was a low percent, even if you don't have to give the number. I know it was like low percent of applicants. So let's turn that around with the Latinas. But the other thing I was going to say about the diversity was, here I've done what I've done in business. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I used to own a bus company in Chicago, and at that time I was only Latina owned. But now I'm doing consulting, so it's a totally different like environment of what I'm doing. But being in the cohort, I loved how some of the women on one of the sessions were just sharing about all these different social media handles they were using to help them learn and how to market better and track certain marketing that I've never heard of. And I was like so excited. I felt like I was in a candy store, like getting all that information so that it could help me on my marketing. And really, so it could also help me become more knowledgeable of what's up and coming that's hot, right?
Yeah, and I think it's kind of interesting. I always think about business, the basics are the basics. So what's true for your bus business and even for a deep tech, high growth company are the same, which is you have to manage your cash flow. You have to have the people chemistry part working, right? Those kinds of things. But you do live in different worlds. So you might bring incredible operational intelligence to a discussion, like the way, you know, this is not going to work with technology because it's basically a people problem. You know, I'm just making this up. But the technology person would say, oh, well, you could automate this task and then all your scheduling would work, right? And so that is the advantage of being able to exchange whatever is strong. And, you know, we have people in the program, for example, somebody's in a nail salon. So they might know quite a bit about like the chemistry of working with a client and I don't know, maybe some inventory things.
Relationship building.
Or relationship building, absolutely. And they might connect and network with a young person who is starting, you know, more of an app-based business or something, who knows all these social media things. And you know, we've experienced the power of TikTok, and those tools are changing all the time. I mean, the segment on digital marketing includes some of these tools, but the tools change all the time. And so both in terms of diversity of age and experience, and anyone who's started or thought about starting a business has something to offer to the cohort, right? And I think that's kind of what you're experiencing.
Yes. And I love everything you said, because it's all perfect. And it's perfect because it's diverse, and there's such a range of not just nationalities but ages, right? And then like, you know, earlier today we had someone speaking from education, and associate administrator, I think it was Rodriguez, and he was talking about technology and the challenges that happened in the country, and how COVID really exposed all those vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
But our goal is like, how do we get that to Latinos and showing that we don't have to do the old traditional way of going physically into location. You can now do it virtually, right?
Mhm.
And so my next question is, we talked about the waiting list, but how about, what do you think would be so essential and a trigger for Latina entrepreneurs to realize that yes, we know this is not the norm, and maybe what you've learned over time, because this is new for us,
Mhm.
So it's not like there's other cultures that they've heard of these things and are always gravitating and signing up for stuff, but for some reason this is so like foreign
Right.
that you think could be some type of insight for them, or way of thinking of looking at it differently. I'm not sure, Professor Streeter, if you're getting me. Hopefully you are. But there's a like a block there, and
Mhm.
there's an opportunity
Are you talking about a block
for the women to apply.
that's blocking somebody from thinking about entrepreneurship as a path, or are you talking
Well,
about?
to think about getting into these type of programs.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Thinking about what value. Like, one other thing that I want to add is that when I got in, I was like, I got into Cornell. I was like so excited. And I went on my LinkedIn all excited, and I got like all these congratulations. And I just want to thank you guys for that, because again, coming from the history of low income and what I encountered, just to have this time is amazing. And I act like I'm in my 30s and I don't have to share my age, but so what do you think that could be something to really move them out of question and into action?
Yeah. I mean, my advice would be, don't limit yourself. It's kind of like in negotiation, for example, women constantly like negotiate internally against themselves. They're like, well, maybe I should ask for a raise. Well, but they probably won't give it to me because whatever reason. And then they just decide, oh, forget it. I'm not going to ask. I don't want to be seen as pushy, right? You don't want to let those kinds of mental barriers keep you from the opportunities that are out there. I think, especially in this program, we have people who have not graduated from high school in the program, and we have people who've got graduate degrees. So it's just allowing yourself to have a vision of your future. Like, dare to dream that you can enter any arena that you want to. And I feel, my experience is different. I grew up in the 50s and 60s as a white middle-class American. So I did not encounter, except for being a female, I didn't encounter those kinds of limitations on me. I mean, nobody's crazy. The reason they limit themselves is because they have run into limits, right? But you don't want to co-facilitate that. You don't want to collaborate with somebody who wants to put limits on you. Oh, well, you're Latina, you grew up without resources, you couldn't possibly do blah, blah, blah. Just don't participate in that. And I would say, start thinking that you can do it. There's a way to do it. It might not be our program. It might be you want to start with something else, but I really feel, women in general are not raised with a sense that it's okay to be powerful except in certain ways, right? And so you have to start looking for some role models. I think being part of something like this that's part of it, right? Looking for role models and encouragement to think about yourself and all that's possible for you in the future.
I love that. Reflecting and looking at this, my project is actually a cohort of learning for Latinas.
Mhm.
And I want to share in this particular session, and I'm probably going to share later as well. There was a white paper, Dr. Streeter, or Professor Streeter, that was done in 2019 that showed that there was 2.3 million Latina entrepreneurs, But out of the 2.3 million, the average in the country was $51,000 in revenue per year, which literally blew my mind, gave me not good goosebumps. And I was just like, wow, considering what I used to have in revenue and even now what I'm doing, I just was blown away. And I want to help transform that and triple that that number to affect the GDP and everything, because we're the fastest growing culture. And what moves you to do what you do?
I just feel that women are so underrepresented in power and wealth and in so many environments. And I think things change when Latinas enter the situation. We have also a lot of women of color in the program that have changed. I think they are changing the world. And the Latina is the biggest group of people that are starting businesses, and we're trying to expand. I think right now, it's around 5% of our enrollees, but we have 85% are Black. So I think, I would like to see, I think what inspires me in this program is the idea that there are some very basic concepts that can really help somebody be more successful in a venture. One is, find a problem that fits a solution, like really understand, are you serving a real problem? Is there an urgent problem that you're solving, and make that problem solution fit turn into a product market fit. And then some other things are figure out how to negotiate in light of you being female, because we can't easily negotiate like men do. It's not well received by women or men. And so learn how to negotiate, learn how to have entrepreneurial presence. And I have this deep belief that these things are going to help women achieve more of what they want, whether it's a lifestyle business that will fit in with whatever else they have in their lives, not just family, but faith. It could be other things. Or whether it's, somebody who wants to do a high growth business. I just want them to be more successful. And that makes me choose to continue to work on the program and build the curriculum and, try to see if we can boost our Latina participation.
We are going to do it, because you and I are going to get like this.
Yeah.
Look at the
But not till next week. Just remember, not till next week.
The name of our program and this summit, building back stronger for today and for tomorrow, in the future, is just so critical. I do want to say I'm excited about how you lead and how the program is sharing. That's why, I reached out to you immediately and we started talking. And then the summit opportunity came up and I was like, oh no, she's got to talk. I'd love to open it up for Q&A. If anybody has questions, put it in the chat and then I will read them. But I'd love to find out if there's questions from you guys for Professor Streeter, or whether it's to her or for the program. If not, you and I will keep going till some questions pop up. But I want to say there's something here. Let's see.
I do see a question from Alicia. About how you find out about these programs. And I would be interested to know, we do not do any marketing because we have, a wait list that's in the thousands. But I think for me, the way I learn about a lot of professional things is through LinkedIn. So I would build your LinkedIn profile and also your LinkedIn network. And maybe Letty, you have some other good ideas.
I do, and thank you. Well, first of all, I'm a LinkedIn beast. I love it in there, and I think that people don't realize that LinkedIn is your bio to the world, and people have to keep. It's like a living thing. They need to go in there and update it and have an amazing background of what you believe in, so that people can get inspired by your background. But I think the other thing is get involved with us, because what we're building here with this particular I'm a vice chair for the Innovation and Technology new committee. But we have a program called Latina Entrepreneurs Now. So we're going to have different monthly sessions, and we do that. So get involved with us. I shared my email in the chat, and we want to get these things out. We want to get the numbers up and have the applicants, Professor Streeter, that can get into your program and others, because it's one thing to start a business and there's just so many what ifs or unknowns, but this could make it so much easier. And I think the other fear that some people have is the fear of, what if I'm a startup?
Yeah.
Or what if I don't have a lot of revenue?
Right.
I don't know if you want to touch base on that, but I know there's startups in the program.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think if you looked at the distribution, most of the revenue is down in the thousands of, maybe $150,000 in revenue, but there are people who enter the program who don't have any revenue, who have zero revenue, or are just barely starting. And then we actually have had some very interesting participants who've been in business for a long time, but they want to shift, they want to downsize, or they want to scale, or they want to do something different.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't hesitate to look for these things. I think one of the campaigns we made for the Latina population was through Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And I think there were a couple of other Latina facing organizations that have helped us sort of spread the word.
And we'll be partnering up with you.
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really terrific. So thank you for that question, Alicia.
Yeah, Alicia. I think the other thing that is really essential is that so many people have fear and don't realize that that's just part of the game. Like the other day I saw in the chat where one girl was saying, well, I have these different ideas and there's so many multiple ideas, and then I'm like bouncing around, and then I have the fear. And then this one Latina who put in there, just do it. She's like, stop thinking about it and just do it. And she's like, you got to get in there and you got to fight. And I loved it, because that's when I had this image of myself. Now, for years, I always felt like I was getting in the ring, a boxing ring, and I'm going back and forth, but I felt like at that moment that I saw myself with a spring on my back. It's like when they would knock me down, I had the spring to bounce back. And you get so used to the coming back up that it almost becomes normal. Do you have any stories from your time of leading this program that you'd love to share with us of maybe an entrepreneur that got into the program and was challenged, but maybe towards the end she was already transforming, or someone you heard later had massive like ahas?
Yeah, I should have queued a few things up for myself on that.
Oh,
Because we have, one of the things we've done is collected about 100 different stories through video of people who've done that. And for most of them, they might have struggled with, maybe let's put the finance section is sometimes a stumbling block for people. But they said when they got through it, they realized, they just had to put one foot in front of the other, and I have a yoga teacher who always says the hardest move in yoga, and you're waiting for her to say some twisted thing. She's like, the hardest move in yoga is step onto the mat. Wow. So I would say stepping onto the mat is like taking the very, very beginning step of finding out, like, what is customer discovery? What does it mean to try to look for a problem and try to solve it in a way that you can make money in a market that's big enough? All of those things I think are important. I am very impressed with the pride of the women that come through the program. If you complete all 12 weeks, you join kind of an elite Facebook group that then they exchange all kinds of stuff with each other. And I believe they're going to have some kind of putting together some kind of a Christmas deal where the businesses that have Christmas oriented gifts, we can put it out to the world together as a bundle, all kinds of things like that come up out of the program. I think people really gain a lot of self-esteem and self-confidence. there's a balance. People like to talk about like the imposter syndrome, if you've heard
Yeah.
that term.
Oh yeah.
I feel like we don't want to overemphasize that, because really sometimes there's important self-doubt. There's rational self-doubt about something, but you don't want to keep it from limiting you. You can always take a baby step in the direction and put your toe in the water and sort of figure it out.
Mhm. Another thing that I was going to mention that I think is a huge asset that you guys offer is those tools, those
Yeah.
documents that we can save.
Yeah.
And, I love reading them and saving them. And then sometimes I think whether I'm going to use it in what I'm currently doing, or I could use it in the future, or potentially use it towards also advising my clients.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to thank you for those amazing tools and like perspectives and case studies that sometimes you feature. There was a good one on a woman named Rosa in the situation of a program she was creating for educational system and teachers. And then she was doing like her, research on potential targets. And then she thought it was one way and it wasn't. But I loved how it took us through.
Yeah.
From the beginning, she had this idea, and then how it kept evolving. And then after her, R&D, if you will, she had this like aha moment where it's like, oh, it's not even that. We got to go this way. It's the same thing, but we got to take a different route of,
Right.
bring that forward.
I'm just a huge proponent. I've said it several times already. This customer discovery process is so important, because most of us, and this included me, my business that I started in 2008 finally exited this year, which was, so great for me. But that's a long time for the business to be in operation without exiting. And I think the mistake I made, that now I kind of teach from that knowledge of failure, was I thought, oh, I love this product. I think everybody would love it, And it turned out that other faculty members were not as interested in technology as I was. But, I feel like that's such a powerful tool to use. And what Letty's talking about is each course in this 12-week program has videos, short videos, very short videos by the faculty member. And then it will have activities, which is things you do to adapt it to your business. And then tools that you download. The best example is the legal course, where there's a bunch of checklists, but here's a list that you take to your lawyer and ask questions about, how do I protect my idea, and do I have the right structure, and so forth. And then there are discussions, which is, these moderated discussions of different topics. And so the tool part, I'm so glad to have you call that out, because I think that's something that came from working with the instructional designers. They're like, they need to have something they can use later.
Yes.
All of us are at a teachable moment at a different point. And sometimes you have something and you're like, I don't quite understand what this is, but I think I'm going to need it later. And then you have like a tool that you can take with you. So
there was a good one in one of the sessions, and it asked about having a like uncomfortable challenge where you were working with someone, and then it was just really uncomfortable at the issue that popped up, and how did you deal with it? And I remember that it had just happened, that I was like still hot on it, and I was just like writing all these things. But I've learned over time, Professor Streeter, is that throughout my life and career, and I'm talking about as a human being and as having the various businesses or wherever I worked and led, is that I always look for, even when there's a hell moment or storm, what was the learning moment? What did I learn out of this, as opposed to being angry or resentful? And I loved the different comments that came in there from different women. And what I loved about the process there, and it's through every session, is that your job is to also communicate with at least two of the women and respond to them to give them support and ideas. I haven't seen that anywhere. I love it.
Yeah, that support part and help problem solving. Sometimes you just need help with problem solving. And most of the things that are most difficult in life, it's where the deep learning is. I don't know what it is about humans, but we don't seem to be able to learn unless we hurt. And, you know, it happens when we fall in love. You don't really realize it until your heart's broken, and then you know what love is, right? And so in the business world, even small failures have important messages for you, whether it is, I need to interact with my employees in a different way, or I need to manage my cash flow in a different way. Most of these problems, you know, are resolvable over time and can really teach you. Or, you know, it's not uncommon for people to fail in a business and then start another business and take all that learning, you know, going forward. So
thank you. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to give one idea or call to action of something that like really lights their fire or empowers them to look at the future for themselves. What would you like to share?
Wow, you're asking me the big question.
Hey, you're a professor. I can't give you baby ones.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I would just say, find somebody who believes in you. I'm always surprised. I have a lot of previous students I've taught for so many years. And when they call up and are discouraged, I always say, you know, I believe in you. And they're like, wow, no one ever tells me that. And so find the person in your life who's going to say that with authenticity, right? Perhaps not your mom or dad, because they're always going to believe in you, but they're important backup as well. But find somebody who believes in you and thinks you can do it, and then break the problem down into small pieces and take the very first baby step onto the mat. And you know, with that, buoyed by a network around you that really can believe in you, and not trying to do everything all at once and being paralyzed by that, I think is a really important thing.
That was amazing. And I want to close out and say thank you for coming today. And I really would love to say that everybody should learn to receive, not just give. Have a great day, everybody, and wishing everybody a wonderful conference. Bye.
Thanks so much. Have a great conference.
Thank you.